to TWT Talks with Tito. This is Tito Medrano, back for another episode, back in your live. So today we're going to talk about the top 10 best TNA World Champions of all time. Yes, TNA right now is slowly but surely is being talked about a lot, with, Trick Williams currently being the TNA champion. With the direction the company's going, TNA is more alive than it's ever been under the WWE umbrella with the partnerships going on. So yeah, but we're going to talk about the top 10 greatest TNA champions of all time. But before I do that, I do have a long list of honorable mentions. I'm just going to talk about them briefly and then get to the top 10. And yeah, but let's get right to the honorable mentions really quick. One of the honorable mentions that I want to talk about is Ron Killings, formerly known as R-Truth. Sadly got released by WWE. It was a shocker for me. I was in disbelief. Not only did he get released, Carlitos got released too. And it was out of left field. But Ron Killings is a former NWA champion. The NWA championship was under the TNA umbrella at one point. And he's an honorable mention. Because if you think about it, this is the only world title that he won in his career. Never won a world title in WWE. Only won the 24/7, the United States title, and tag team belts. That's about it. But never won a world title. But he did it with TNA. He won the NWA belt, but the NWA was under TNA at one point. Other honorable mention is Nick Nemeth. You guys know him as Dolph Ziggler in WWE. Nick Nemeth won the NXT belt. He won the world title belt, which WWE sometimes wants to erase that he did win that belt, but he won it. But TNA it's a company. TNA is kind of like a company where a lot of the WWE guys didn't capitalize. They did it in TNA. Nick Nemeth had a great run since being a part with the company. Now he's currently a TNA tag team champion with his brother Ryan Nemeth. So it's good to see him win the TNA belt. And be an honorable mention as well. Next person in this list is Austin Aries. Look, despite what anybody thinks about Austin Aries, I know he has a certain personality, and probably I'm going to get a lot of heat because he's not on this top 10 list. But the guy went from being X Division champion to TNA champion, and he was a good TNA champion. Can't take anything away from him. But yeah, he's an honorable mention in this list. Next one is Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard is the only female in the history of TNA that won the TNA World Champion. And had it for 165 days, which is very impressive. And that's history. Tessa Blanchard during that time was red hot. She was probably arguably one of the best female wrestlers at the time. 2025, she's not talked about as much. She had to let go of the championship because she didn't want to do promos. And then she won the belt when it was the pandemic. So it was hard. I'm guessing it was hard for her to do that, but yeah, she's an honorable mention just because she was the first ever woman to win it. Another honorable mention is Johnny Impact. You guys know him as John Morrison, Johnny Nitro. Johnny Mundo. He's Mr. Johnny last names. Again, another former WWE talent that never won the WWE belt, never won the world title belt. He won the ECW belt, but no one really counts that as a world title, unfortunately, because it's not the same ECW that was in the 90s. It was under the WWE umbrella. But he did win the Impact title, or at the time it was called Impact title, but the TNA belt, it's under his resume. Can't take that away from him. Had it for 196 days, almost 200 days. And it was great to see him win that belt. And obviously, have that in his resume. And yeah, next one is Drew Galloway. You guys know him as Drew McIntyre in WWE. He was in TNA from 2015 to 2017 before jumping back ships to WWE. Even though he only held the belt one time and it was for 89 days, it was meaningful because we all wanted to see him win the world title eventually. And eventually it happened again in WWE. But it was great to see a preview of what was going to happen when he went back to WWE. So he's an honorable mention, not a top 10, but honorable mention. Next guy, and a lot of people are probably shocked that he's not in my top 10. It's hard. Like I said, these lists are hard. EC3. So EC3 is another talent in WWE that really didn't get the proper push. They dropped the ball on him twice. And, but, you know, as far as TNA Impact, they did a phenomenal job as booking him properly, giving him that push. You know, him beating Kurt Angle for the TNA title. And, yeah, it was great to see EC3 get that push and win that belt. Another guy that's in this list, Eli Drake. Yeah, formerly known as LA Knight now. Also won the Impact TNA title before, you know, he became the megastar in WWE. And like I said, the company of TNA has pushed talents either that WWE didn't push or pushed talents before these talents went to WWE. So it's great to see a lot of these guys that I'm mentioning, that I'm name dropping right now, and girls, because I dropped Tessa Blanchard, even though she's never been in WWE, she's done extra stuff, but you know. It was great to see that Eli Drake became a world champion in TNA. I think this was the answering call that WWE needed to see from Eli Drake, now known as LA Knight. So it was good to see him win that belt. Next one in this list is Magnus. You guys know him as Nick Aldis. Magnus, again, another talent that pretty much started his career with TNA to get noticed. And did he do so? Won the TNA World Champion, beat AJ Styles, beat Sting. And, you know, those guys went to different companies after they beat him. And, again, he's an honorable mention because he could have been in the top 10, but the top 10 is too strong for me to put him. Honorable mention. We're almost done here with honorable mention. We got two more, actually. Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's another honorable mention. Why is Matt Hardy an honorable mention? Here's why. Matt never won the world title in WWE, never won the WWE title in WWE. For years, he was always known as Jeff's older brother, but TNA did a good job of putting the belt. Yes, his title run didn't last long, but it was good to see him win that belt. It was good to see him, you know, glorify that belt, because I feel like Matt Hardy deserved to be world champion at least once. It never happened in WWE, but at least it happened in a different company. And TNA, you know, did it for him. And not only won the TNA world title, won the TNA tag team belts with Jeff Hardy. So that's great to see, too. All right, last one. I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for this because he was a co-owner at one point. He was the guy that brought a lot of talents from WCW, WWE during the early 2000s. And I'm probably going to get a lot of heat because he should probably be in top 10. But here's why he's not in the top 10. And I saved him as the last honorable mention. Jeff Jarrett. Yes, Jeff Jarrett's a legend in this industry. He's someone that, quite frankly, has been in WWE, been in WCW, currently in AEW. TNA was a company where he did a lot of great stuff. Won the NWA title 6 times, you know. But the thing is this. He's a co-owner. He booked himself to win the belt way too many times. This case is kind of like when Hulk Hogan was in WCW and he had creative control. That's why I'm not a fan of that. Look, Jeff Jarrett was by all means WWE Hall of Famer, Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer. Had great feuds in TNA with Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was probably his biggest feud. AJ Styles, but when you're a co-owner and you overbook yourself too much, it's fine that you want to be a champion. It's fine that, you know, during this time, Jeff Jarrett was in bad terms with WWE and he had to, like, do something with his career. TNA, NWA, these companies were not the WWE, but, you know, they were competition for them. And, you know, WCW at the time was already bought out by WWE. But Jeff Jarrett kind of overdid it, and I'm not a fan of you overdoing stuff. If you're an owner, a co-owner, or whatever it is of a company, book yourself as champion, but don't overdo it too much, because then, you know, it's just going to be like, we already know what we're going to get. And some of the times that Jeff Jarrett won the belt, he didn't win it clean. He would always use the guitar and bash people with it. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean? And 6 reigns, 1,005 days, that's, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot. But, yeah, I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. He brought a lot of talents from WCW, a lot of talents from WWE, which was great, and a lot of talents that he discovered, and a lot of talents that were, you know, made their name for themselves because of Jeff Jarrett. So I'm not taking anything away from him, and I didn't mind him being champion 6 times. You know, he was champion. He was a world heavyweight champion for WCW at one point, even though that we know that didn't end well for him. But the reality is this: he overdid it when it came to booking himself. But yeah, all right. Let's get to the top 10 of the best TNA World Champions of all time. That was my last honorable mention. Jeff Jarrett was my last honorable mention. Coming in at number 10. Say his name and he'll appear. I believe in Joe Hendrick. Why is Joe Hendrick number 10 out of all those honorable mentions that I mentioned? Why? Here's simply why. Joe Hendry is a sensation that became a star, not overnight. It took him time to get where he was at. But Joe Hendry is partially responsible for putting TNA on the map again. TNA for a long time was dead. With TNA for a long time, we thought that it was going to go out of business. TNA for a long time, we didn't think TNA was going to pick themselves up from the ground up. Joe Hendry is a part of that. Joe Hendry, even though he held that belt for 126 days, it literally felt like a year for me, because that's how meaningful Joe Hendry made that belt mean. The reality is this: Joe Hendry gave the light to TNA. And I think a lot has to do with him. Call me crazy, I don't care. But Joe Hendry is one of those guys that practically made TNA interesting, made TNA watchable, made TNA what it is today. And a lot of people want to work in TNA now. A lot of, like, you know, the Hardys are in TNA, Nick Nemeth, you know, Indy Hartwell. I feel like TNA is now a company where people can just fall back and, you know, if it didn't work out for WWE, it didn't work out for AEW. Wait, we got TNA over here. TNA's over here. And I think Joe Hendry's highly responsible for that. And that's why he comes to number 10. Because I feel like he contributed a lot over the last year with the company. Or more. And the fact that he's one of the first guys that started taking his talent to WWE, NXT, you know, other companies. And props to Joe Hendry. He had a good run with the TNA title. Lost it to Trick Williams at NXT Battleground. Let's see what Trick does, but yeah. He comes at number 10, but not number 9. Coming in at number 9, Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy is known a lot for just the WWE guy. For a lot of things, but Jeff Hardy, his run with TNA was awesome. Won the TNA title, I think 3 or 4 times. I want to say 3. Multiple times. Had great feuds with Kurt Angle, Bully Ray, Sting, and Jeff Hardy for a long time. People don't look at his career in TNA like they do WWE, but they should. They should, because Jeff Hardy had a great career and is still doing his thing in TNA. I mean, him and Matt lost the belts to the Nemeth brothers, but Jeff Hardy, for a lot, selfishly, I'm gonna say this: I didn't want Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy to leave TNA in 2017 because they had a great thing going on with the whole the greatest tag team of all space and times. You know, Matt Hardy with the delete, and Brother Nero, how knew you come? You know, all that was great. It was cinematic stuff that was going on. Obviously, they wanted to end their career in WWE. Didn't go their way back in 2017. You know, it ended not so well for the brothers. You know, Matt left before Jeff. Matt left in 2020. Jeff left in 2021. And, you know, left a sour taste in their mouth. But obviously, Jeff, you know, followed Matt. Matt went to AEW, and then Jeff followed him right away. Things didn't go well for Jeff in AEW due to the, you know, the DUIs and stuff like that. And yes, Jeff had issues also in TNA. He wrestled drunk against Sting and got stripped. Got himself back together though. Got his life back together. And now he's in TNA again. Did a couple of like matches in NXT. So it was good to see him and Matt in NXT. Back to their roots. But yes, Jeff Hardy, if you look at his TNA career, he had a great career there too. And currently in TNA again. But you can't take anything away from what he accomplished. Obviously, I I don't see Jeff winning another world title. I don't see that in his books. But when he had the world title in TNA, it was as meaningful as when he won it in WWE. So you can't take anything away from this guy. Hall of Famer with Matt Hardy, probably even a solo Hall of Famer as well. So Jeff Hardy comes in at number 9 as one of the best TNA World Champions of all time. Coming in at number 8, Bully Ray. A lot of you guys know him as Bubba Ray Dudley, part of one of the legendary tag teams, the Dudley Boys. Why do I think Bully Ray was a great TNA champion? He was a believable heel. He was the president of Aces and 8. Bully Ray, I feel like if I can have a conversation with him, and I can tell him, Bully Ray, if the creative team of WWE was going on right now, and you brought Bully Ray to WWE, how would that do? Because I feel like this Bully Ray would have been in WWE, and they would have had this creative team. Bully Ray would have been a WWE champion or world champion. Obviously, we all know Bully Ray is known for being a tag team champion with Devon. But man, when he did Bully Ray in TNA, won the belt twice, it was probably arguably one of the best things of his career. He might agree or to disagree, but I honestly believe Bully Ray being Bully Ray in TNA, that version of Bully Ray that we never saw in WWE, that's arguably probably one of the best things that happened in his career. And when he won that belt, when he beat Jeff Hardy for it, it was deja vu. And yeah, I feel like looking back at his career, because, he's a Hall of Famer regardless. He's a Hall of Famer as the Dudley Boys, as Bubba. But Bully Ray is just, his character was amazing. Coming in at number 7, Christian Cage. Back in 2005, Christian Cage was probably the first guy from WWE to jump to TNA at that time. It was huge. It was huge. No one saw that coming. But the reason why he did that is because he gambled on himself. I feel like, and this story has not been told, that Vince never really believed in him. It was always Edge versus Christian. And Christian Cage, arguably did his thing in WWE prior to leaving. IC belt, won the tag team belts with Edge numerous of times. European champion, I believe. But when he went to TNA and won the NWA title, again, the NWA title was under the umbrella. It was good to see. It was good to see that. And yeah. And then obviously he went back to WWE, I think in 2008, he went back to WWE, won the United States title, won the ECW again. They don't really care about that belt. They call it a world title belt, but they don't really care about it as much. And also won the world title belt. He had 2 runs with it, but it was a belt that those 2 runs that he had with it was just like, eh. And then he went back, and then in AEW, he won the TNA world title, beat Kenny Omega for it. By the way, Kenny Omega, honorable mention, I forgot to mention him. Won that TNA belt too, while he was the belt collector with the AEW belt. But yeah, it was great to see Christian Cage won the TNA belt again. If you think about it, Christian Cage in AEW, his work is awesome. The views that he's been having are awesome. How long is this going to last? We don't know, but we're enjoying the ride while it is. But yeah, Christian Cage comes in at number 7. Coming in at number 6, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe only had 1 title run with the TNA title, but that's pretty much all he needed, because that's how good he made that belt mean. And Samoa Joe, I'm actually shocked Samoa Joe only had 1 run with it. Samoa Joe was one of the guys that was the face of that company for a while. He was a faithful prior to him leaving Ring of Honor for TNA. Samoa Joe was a loyal soldier as far as TNA goes. Unfortunately, things didn't end it well for him, but his title run with the belt was meaningful. The matches that he had with Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, Magnus, Nick Aldis, Sting, I can go on, Christian Cage, all these guys that I mentioned, Jeff Jarrett, and the list goes on and on and on. Samoa Joe was he was one of a kind when it came to having this belt. Obviously, he went to WWE, won the NXT belt, twice. The first guy to do it twice. After from NXT to the main roster, United States champion. I think that's the only belt he won in the main roster for WWE, the United States belt. Yeah, I think so. Competed for the Universal title, the WWE title, but never really won it. Left the company, went to AEW, and there he won the AEW World Champion. Had a good run with it. Lost it to Swerve Strickland. But yeah, Samoa Joe, yeah, mainly, major companies, Ring of Honor, WWE, TNA, AEW. Obviously, I think TNA is the company that put him on the map, though. TNA is the company that is like, this is Samoa Joe. This is who you got to look out for. And it's the company that, well, I don't think TNA was his first world champion. I think it was Ring of Honor. But, that's the belt that put him in the map. All right. Coming in at number 5, the Destroyer, Bobby Lashley. Look, Bobby Lashley does not get enough credit for how good he was in TNA. Yes, he was in WWE. Yes, he won the ECW championship. Again, I'll go on and say this. Belt doesn't really mean much. It was under the WWE umbrella. The priorities back then were the WWE title, the World Heavyweight Championship. The ECW was just like, last reserve. I'm sorry, that's what it was. And a lot of the honorable mentions that were in this list, like Johnny Impact, Matt Hardy, Christian Cage also won that belt, by the way. And like I said, I'll go on and say it. The ECW belt was just a last reserve because, yeah. But anyways, Bobby Lashley winning the TNA title numerous times, being the Destroyer. I literally liked the fact when they call him the Destroyer because they literally booked him like a Destroyer. The matches that he had with EC3, Drew McIntyre, I said EC3, Bobby Roode, Kurt Angle, just these matches that Bobby Lashley had, it was just amazing. And obviously he left the company in 2018, signed back with WWE. I mean, I'm not complaining about the WWE run that he had. His second run with WWE was great. He won the WWE title twice, IC title, United States title. I'm not complaining at all. At all. But could have been better. Just saying, could have been better. You know what I mean? The Hurt Business stuff was great. They took it off from us right away. Could have been better. I wanted to see him win the world title before he left the company. Didn't happen. Now he's with AEW as the part of the Hurt Syndicate. Tag team champions with Shelton Benjamin. Do I see him winning the AEW world title? Possibly, because Bobby Lashley's a conqueror, he's a destroyer, and he's the almighty. He's all in one. So, I mean, Bobby Lashley can do it all. The fact that he's hitting close to 50, the guy looks like $1 million. I wish I can look like that when I'm 50. And the guy, he continues to shock everybody every time he's in that ring. And his character work, amazing. Is he the best mic worker? Probably not, but having MVP as your mouthpiece is great. As your manager is great. Bobby Lashley's TNA run, amazing. I liked it. I mean, won every title in TNA, X Division, the TNA World Championship, the King of the Mountain. Just the name, the Destroyer. I loved it. I liked it. All right, coming in number 4, Bobby Roode. Before he was glorious, before he was Robert Roode, which I think they called him Robert Roode at one point in TNA. I'm not 100% sure. Bobby Roode was part of a tag team called Beer Money, him and James Storm. They drink beer, they won tag team belts. But the Canadian man was, I think he was ready for these guys to split. The moment he beat James Storm for the belt, Bobby Roode became a suit guy, and he became the ultimate heel. He had 2 runs with the TNA World Champion. His first run was 256 days. Man, was he amazing. He was amazing on the mic. He was amazing in the ring. But his first run with the belt as a heel, great. Bobby Roode, amazing. Feuds with Sting, Kurt Angle, James Storm, Jeff Hardy. I believe he feuded with AJ Styles. AJ Styles was still with the company. Bobby Lashley, but he was a face at the time with his second run. But yeah, Bobby Roode he was awesome. He was awesome as a heel champion, and then Austin Aries, which he lost the belt to, but yeah, 256 days as champion, amazing. From a tag team to a champion, amazing. And then obviously he had one more run with the belt, 111 days, I believe, and which he was a face. It wasn't as great as his heel run, but the face run was good too. It wasn't great, but it was good. And yeah, Bobby Lashley then dropped it to Bobby Roode, Robert Roode, Bobby Roode, it's all over the place. But Bobby Roode, Robert Roode, lost it to Bobby Lashley, and he lost the belt to him as a face. I think that was after that he left the company, joined NXT, he became the Glorious, and his NXT run was amazing too. He introduced the gold belt, NXT gold belt, amazing run that he had with that belt. His run with the belt was amazing. He beat Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Roode, or both. Yeah, good run with NXT. Dropped the belt to Drew McIntyre, and then got called up to the main roster, I believe. Won the United States belt, won the tag team belts, and then after that, Bobby Roode just, kind of faded away a little bit, then retired, and now he works backstage with WWE. Great career, I think, since he had a great career. A lot of people thought he should have probably been in WWE earlier, but it wasn't really up to him, because he tried to get into WWE as an extra, tried to get into WWE as a masked wrestler. It didn't happen. He had to make a name for himself. He did it in TNA. TNA was the stomping ground. TNA was the company that put him on the map. And later on, WWE called and said, hey, come to NXT, come to WWE. Boom. But yeah, overall, Bobby Roode, great career, great TNA World Champion. First run. Second run good, but first run was better as a heel. But yeah, comes in at number 4 because, man, arguably, you got to put him up there in that list. He's top 5 for sure. All right. Coming in at number 3, Sting. It's no secret that Sting's going to be top 3 in my list. Sting's known for being a WCW guy, being a former 6-time WCW World Champion. Why is Sting so up in this list? Here's why. Sting, during the time WCW got bought out by WWE, Sting was a part of that AOL contract, guys. It was Sting, it was Goldberg, it was Hogan, Nash, Hall, Bret Hart. That's it. I think Eric Bischoff, you can count him in there. Those guys that I name dropped, they were collecting AOL money. They were collecting millions of dollars when WCW got bought out by WWE. So they had the chance to sit in their couch or sit in their home for 18 months and collect big checks. Sting. A lot of people thought Sting was going to sign with WWE when WWE bought WCW. That was not the case. Sting signed with TNA either in 2003 or 2004, because I think his contract was already up with AOL. And everybody was shocked. Shocked that Sting didn't sign with WWE. But yeah, he didn't. Sting went to TNA, and made a name for himself again, became multiple-time world champion again. I think too much, I would say, but hey, it's Sting. No hard feelings here. NWA champion, TNA champion. When, because there was a time when NWA and TNA were a company. Sting was the focal point of TNA. Sting had matches with AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Jeff Jarrett. The list goes on. Bobby Roode, which I mentioned a lot. Samoa Joe, Christian Cage, I believe. I'm just looking at the list right now. But yeah, all those guys that were TNA guys. If you look at Sting's career, we want to talk about WCW a lot, but TNA, he had a good run. He had good matches. Even he was hitting mid-40s, close to 50s. So, And he was a full-timer. He was not a part-timer. He was a full-timer. So Sting was doing the dang. He was doing the dance. And I gotta give him props. Did he overbook himself? I don't think he overbooked himself. Did he win the title too much? Probably. I mean, the circumstances were not the best. Like when he wrestled Jeff Hardy and Jeff Hardy was intoxicated, he had to take that belt away from him because, Jeff Hardy was not in the right place at the time. But yeah, Sting overall, good run with TNA. Obviously, he left the company in 2017, which he lost to Magnus, Nick Aldis, SmackDown general manager now. Joined WWE in 2017. Just we want to forget about that. A lot of us were like, obviously his run with WWE didn't last long. Had a match with Seth Rollins, had a match with Triple H at WrestleMania 31. And pretty much DX came and beat the NWO because, guys from the NWO came as well. Kind of like, there was Gunn, Michaels, Road Dogg, Pac on Triple H's corner. And then Sting's corner, we had Hogan, Hall, Nash. They pretty much, Triple H beats Sting. And it was kind of like letting everybody know this is how we end the Monday Night Wars by destroying the DX, destroying NWA. NWO, sorry. But yeah, it was a strange time during that time. Sting was still under WWE under a Legends contract. His contract expired. We never got Sting versus Taker, which sucks till this day, even though they faced each other at a WCW event when Taker was Mean Gene and Sting was the surfer guy. But the possibilities of almost having that match, Taker almost leaving to WCW, Sting probably could have been in WWE earlier. There were so many scenarios that could have happened. Sting and Taker should have faced each other at WrestleMania 31. It should have been Sting, Taker, not Sting, Triple H, not Taker versus Bray Wyatt. It should have been Sting, Taker, just saying. But it is what it is. It's all water under the bridge. Then I think 2021 or 2022. One of those years, I always get it confused. Sting signs with AEW, and we know that Sting recently retired last year in 2024. Or 2024. So yeah, Sting got the pleasure to meet him myself. Legend of this industry and awesome. Signed my picture when I was a kid. That was pretty cool. When I was dressed up as Sting as the Wolfpack. And yeah, Sting, we tend to remember him as the WCW guy. But Sting was also a TNA guy. And he was the guy. And he's a TNA Hall of Famer himself. But yeah, Sting comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2, Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist. Why is he number 2? We'll get into that in a bit. But Kurt Angle is high in this list because Kurt Angle doesn't get enough props for his TNA run. Some would even say that his TNA run was better than his WWE run. A lot of fans are gonna go crazy. But listen, Kurt Angle probably had one of the best matches in TNA over WWE. Slightly, maybe a little longer, maybe, but the feuds with Jeff Jarrett, Sting, Bobby Roode, Robert Roode, Bobby Roode, Bobby Lashley, Jeff Hardy. Him and Jeff Hardy had so much great chemistry. If they would have had this kind of chemistry in the Attitude Era, we'd be talking about them more in WWE than TNA. But those two guys had great chemistry in WWE. Rob Van Dam, let's not forget about Rob Van Dam. By the way, also won the TNA World Title and had to release it due to, I think, injury or stuff like that. But Kurt Angle had great matches in TNA. It was just like, man, matches with Christian Cage as well. Kurt Angle had a good run in TNA. It was still in his prime, was the wrestling machine. And when he signed with TNA in 2006, it was the biggest shocker ever because nobody thought he would leave WWE. But a lot of people don't know this. Kurt Angle did not want to work a full schedule at the time. He was under, painkillers. He was under pills. And, WWE had a grueling schedule. They didn't want part-timers. They didn't accept any part-timers. Kurt Angle vouched, can I be a part-timer in it? Vince said, no. Kurt Angle said, okay, then I'll go jump ships to TNA. And that's what he did. He was in TNA for 11 years, had great matches. Not only did he win the TNA title, went to New Japan, won that belt, and made that belt relevant. And, man, Kurt Angle had a run with TNA. Obviously, he came back to WWE in 2017, I apologize. got inducted in the Hall of Fame, had a couple matches, but it was just not the same Kurt Angle. You know, we saw that Kurt Angle in 2006, 2017, his body was not the same. He wasn't the same wrestling machine he was. And yeah, but it was good to see him. His run with WWE was amazing. It was amazing. Well, TNA was, well, same with WWE. He had great matches in WWE as well. Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era. But TNA, man, TNA was just, it was great. He was great in TNA. And, yeah, he needs to be talked about a lot. Won the belt 6 times. 6 times with TNA. And, bruh, come on, like, New Japan belt, can't take that away from him. But he's not number one. Number one is, the reason why I started watching the reason why I started watching TNA is the reason why number one, this guy is number one. You guys know him as the phenomenal AJ Styles. AJ Styles, he is the guy that built TNA from the ground up. AJ Styles is the reason why I watched TNA in 2008. Long story short, I got back into wrestling in 2008. I was just flipping channels and I was watching WWE at the time. I started watching TNA and I watched AJ Styles for the first time and I was amazed and I was hooked. AJ Styles is the greatest TNA World Champion of all time. Won it twice, but he's the greatest TNA champion of all time. This guy put TNA on the map. This guy made wrestlers from WWE and all over companies talk about this guy. Also won the NWA title while NWA was still in it. Had great matches with Kurt Angle, Sting, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, Bobby Lashley was not in the company at the time. Bully Ray, Jeff Hardy, I mean, the list goes on and on of all these guys. Jeff Jarrett, Magnus. This guy is the definition of, he's phenomenal. Phenomenal, like his nickname. AJ Styles, this is the house that AJ Styles built, and he's not lying when he says that. He is the greatest TNA World Champion of all time. The greatest of all time. He was the face of TNA for years. 12 years with that company. Sucks that I was so mad that Dixie Carter and people in the front office did him dirty. And that's why he left in 2013. And I don't blame him. He went to New Japan and became the guy in New Japan. Won the New Japan World title. But yeah, man, AJ Styles is just amazing. Amazing. The triple threat match that he had with Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe. That match is the greatest TNA World Championship match ever. AJ Styles was a part of it. The match that he had with Kurt Angle, man, Kurt Angle would praise this guy all the time. Those two had great chemistry. AJ Styles is arguably the best TNA World Champion, the best TNA wrestler of all time. I don't care what anybody says. Obviously, he left the company in 2013, joined New Japan. And before TNA, he was in Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor, TNA. Let's not forget that he did some WCW for a bit, and then they got bought out by WWE. Did Velocity when they had Velocity at the time, and he left. He didn't join WWE to the OVW, because his wife was trying to do college, and he didn't want to interfere in his wife's career goals, so he moved to Florida because TNA was doing Florida at the time, and he started his name there because he could have started in WWE earlier, but he didn't. So, and then obviously he joined WWE in 2016. His run with New Japan ended 3 years, great run. Bullet Club member, leader. 2016 till this day is with WWE. He's gonna retire in WWE. He's a TNA Hall of Famer for sure. It's great to see when they talked about when Joe Henry versus Trick Williams had that match at Battleground. He was the narrator of the TNA title, talking about the TNA title and the history, because he's the guy that put that belt on the map. He's number one, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty positive, AJ Styles is number one in a lot of people's list when it comes to the TNA World 'Thank you, AJ Styles. Because of you, I started watching TNA. And thank you for that. And that's why you're number one at TWT Talks with Tito. And with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. I had to talk about the TNA world title because it's red hot right now with Trick Williams being the champion and Joe Henry making that belt as relevant as it ever will be. But yeah, next week we will be talking about UFC 316. Marab versus Sean O'Malley for the UFC Bantamweight Champion. Also, the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. We're also going to be talking about something else. Oh yeah, that's right, Money in the Bank. Can't forget about Money in the Bank. Who will win the Money in Men's and Women's Money in the Bank briefcase? Also, we have John Cena, Logan Paul versus Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes. A lot to talk about next week, but that's next week. That's for next week. But with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much. I'm losing my voice, as you can tell. Not really. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay tuned. Be safe. Until next time, at TWT Talks with Tito. This is Tito Madrano.